How are you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, and I have a really special show that I want to bring to you today. And what we're going to talk about is why shiny object syndrome keeps you poor. And this is going to be for the person that kind of wants to understand why shiny object syndrome is not kind of allowing them to get to the level of success that they desire. Maybe they start things, they can't finish them because they get distracted. They get down the road of doing something else. They spend a lot of time starting and stopping, and it's not allowing them to get what they really want to get out of life. I have Tasha from Goddess Day to really kind of help me with this particular topic. She has a lot of experience in this particular area, and she's going to really explain to you how you can overcome this shiny object syndrome and put yourself in the best position to be successful. So, Tasha, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, Dave. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really just excited to be here. This topic is actually something that I'm really passionate about because, as it says, I think it's holding a lot of people back. So I'm excited to be able to get into it today.
Definitely. And really quickly, before we go ahead and start through the particular situation, if anybody wants to reach you or find you on social media, how can they go about doing that?
You can find me on Twitter. I am deep in those Twitter streets, so you can find me at Goddess Day HQ. And occasionally, I will grace Instagram with my presence. You can find me over there at Goddess Day HQ as well.
Definitely. All right. So appreciate you giving those out. So really quickly, and because the audience may not know you, they may know you because we know that you're doing your thing and you've been doing it for a minute. But what we want to do is for all the people that may not be familiar with you and your story, kind of give me some of your story and how you got involved in personal finance.
Okay. I'm going to try to keep this short, but it's a really important question in terms of how did I get here? Because I never thought that I would be helping people with their finances. However, this is something that I've been doing for myself and my family since I was 10 years old. So I tell people all the time, I'm not new to this at all. There might be a lot of new gurus or coaches or all these other designations in the industry, but I have actually been doing this for a very long time. And I remember when, by the time I was 13 years old, I was the richest person in my house, right? In my household. And my dad couldn't wrap his mind around, how does this girl have more money than me? But what people don't realize is that every single amount of money that you have, it starts with a single penny. And if you are intentional about how you're using those pennies, guess what happens? They grow. And it doesn't matter how many pennies or quarters or dollars you have. If you are not intentional with them, guess what happens? They disappear. So my dad actually asked me in real life, are you accepting money from boys at school? Like, what he actually thought was going on, I have no idea. But I was like, no, that's not what's happening. And that's when I started getting an allowance. I was 13 years old, and my dad just wanted to make sure that the only man that was giving me money was him. By the time I went to high school, I graduated, went to a top 20 university. From there, I was recruited to a top 50 company where I was making more money than I had ever made before. I'm looking around me and I see people who look like me. We're all making more money than we've ever made. But most of them were still living paycheck to paycheck. And I started to realize that if we continue down this path collectively, it doesn't matter if we're making more money because our net worth is actually shrinking. So after 2 years, I quit my job in corporate America and I started my business and I never looked back. So I've been in business. This is actually my 10th year. So I'm really excited about what I've been able to accomplish throughout this time. And the things that I learned in those foundational years are very, very vital to my message even today.
Okay. And in your story, you kind of talked about how early on you were really good with money. Was that something that somebody taught you, or just something that was just kind of inherent to your behavior?
It was literally inherent to my behavior. I love systems and I always have. So by the time I was 10, I got a notebook kind of like this one. And it was from the dollar store. All I did at the top of the page, I wrote down, this is how much money I have at the start of the day, $5.35. Really, like no lie, $5.35. I was 10 years old. And then what did I do? I asked my dad, can I have $1? Ask my mom, can I have $5? Ask my auntie. Every day I would just figure out, how can I get a couple pennies, nickels, dimes? How can I do that? And that's how I literally started that at 10. And if I went to the candy store, guess what? Subtract. I spent $1 today. I spent 25 cents today. And what I started to see was with every single page, even though the amounts were small, it was making a big difference. And that's why by the time I was 13, I had more money than everybody. I became the family bank. So it's very inherent to how I operate.
Okay. And I appreciate that. And so what we want to start getting into is this particular issue of shiny object syndrome. So why do you think in your own experience, or maybe things that you've dealt working with clients, why do you think so many people experience shiny object syndrome?
Because it looks good. Like, that's the whole thing. I often tell people, like, you have to really decide, do you want the glitter? Because the glitter is like sparkling and it's calling to you, or do you actually want the gold? The glitter, it ain't as expensive. It's a little bit easier to get. You can really, you don't have to do as much, but the results also, when you get it, the results are not the same. So I really think that people have shiny object syndrome because they want a quick fix. They want to believe that there's an easy fix out there, and that's just not the case. But also because there isn't a lot of foundational education when it comes to finance in general. So when somebody comes along and they give you this promise and they tell you that this is what you need to reach the next level, and deep down you want to reach the next level, but you're actually scared that it's never going to happen, people can prey on those insecurities. And before you realize that, you've gone down a path that isn't taking you to where you want to go.
Okay. And you talked about the quick fix, and I have another word for that. I call it the magic bullet. Why do you think so many people that have the shiny object syndrome, what's really underlying, what's really underlying or causing that syndrome is the fact that they're looking for that quick fix? Why do you think they're looking for that?
Because they want to be successful. And you really have to understand, systematically, we're over 400 years behind everybody else, right? If you look at our peers, we're 400 years behind. And then if you look at women, we were property not too long ago. So when you start thinking about, how do you create a shortcut? How do you get that magic bullet that's going to help you get to where your peers are, so that you can own a house, so that you can finally have this freedom that you've been wanting for so long? And there's this generational yearning there too. It's not just you as an individual, it's generations of longing for financial freedom that comes to play with you as an individual. And then you wonder, why are you reaching for things that don't work? It's because you're hungry for it, but not willing to do the work for it, if we're being honest, because there are absolutely ways to get there. But when we start talking about what the real ways are, nobody wants to listen to that because it's not sexy. The message is out there, but it's not as popular as people posing in front of a Bentley or diving into a pool. It's not as sexy as that. So nobody really wants to hear that message.
Okay. And something else I want to ask you, and I know you may know this when dealing with clients. So we got a person that's maybe listening to this now. They may be watching it, and they're dealing with shiny object syndrome, but they're hanging on to the idea of the quick fix. So even though they try something that don't work, they try this, it don't work. They try this, it don't work. Why do you think they're kind of stuck in that loop to where even though shiny object syndrome is not working for them, they keep latching onto it?
You got to think like a gambler. Right? You have a gambler and they go to the casino, and somehow every time they have this hope that something is going to be different. They spend tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars at the casino when they could have put that into a legitimate investment, but instead they have this, I often call it a fairy tale mentality. Like, you want to live for the fairy tale instead of living in reality, because reality is going to require that you pay the cost to get to where you want to go. Reality doesn't care about what's fair and what's not fair. The reality is nobody cares that your peers have a 400-year head start on you and generations of wealth building behind them while you have none. Nobody cares. And so what is necessary that nobody wants to really talk about these days, because we're talking about self-care and luxury, where's the sacrifice, right? That's what it's actually going to take to be able to get rid of this shiny object mentality, to be able to get rid of this magic bullet mentality, to be able to stop living inside of a fairy tale where you think somebody else is going to come and magically save you. It's not happening. So what you want to do is really buckle down and start learning about the real shortcuts, right? One of the shortcuts I talk about is planning, right? It's not that short. But do you know that if you would actually just start planning out your money, you would have a strategic advantage over the 50% of people who don't? Planning and sticking to a plan, it's not that easy, but it actually does give you a competitive advantage. So you want to start looking at what are the things that really do work.
Okay, thank you. And now I want to ask you, so when a person is experiencing this shiny object syndrome, how does that leave them open to getting scammed?
Oh my goodness. This is a really important question. I know you see people getting scammed on the timeline all the time.
Yeah.
It is so prevalent on social media nowadays. And a lot of people who present themselves as professionals are, they're more like personalities, and they're selling you. And what they're in is the business of sales. And they're really good at selling you a dream. So tell me your question again, because I kind of got excited about like how important it is that we talk about it, because I see people getting scammed all the time. But repeat your question for me.
Yes, ma'am. So we have a person, and let's say they're experiencing shiny object syndrome. They're caught in this syndrome, and they're caught in this behavior pattern of keep getting caught up in the shiny object distraction. How does that leave them open to being scammed by people online, but also in real life?
Yes, because when you're looking for a shiny object, when you have shiny object syndrome, one thing that you'll find is that the people who promote those messages, they don't have any longevity. They don't have any longevity with doing things long term. Even now, you'll see people promoting about the recession. Like it's this like, oh my gosh, recession proof your business. And it's like, the recession is nothing new. This should have been something that if you were actually expert, your clients would have been thinking about this 3 years ago. And now that it's here, we understand, or coming, is just a natural part of the economic cycle of our country. It's a very natural part. And so, but when you have shiny object syndrome, you hear something like that, and you see somebody present something that says, I can help you recession proof your portfolio, right? And they're using a word that triggers you because you're actually afraid of the recession. And so now you want to learn something from somebody who's dangled this carrot or this shiny object in front of your face. But instead of helping you to fortify you against this thing that's in the right here and now, and if somebody is actually going to fortify you against it, they're actually going to be thinking about strategies that will prepare you for the next one. Because this one you would have been preparing for years ago, right? When they start to say words that trigger your fear, it absolutely leaves you open to be scamming, because you want a solution and a quick fix that's going to require more than you're willing to put in at the time. Or maybe you are willing to put in the work, but the person who's offering it to you don't have the solution that you think they have. So if you want to prevent being scammed, one of the things that you want to look at is consistency and continuity. Does this person actually have a body of work that you can look at and that you could pull from? And not just do they have a body of work, but is their online presence consistent as well? So if you look at the things that they're saying, they're not shifting and blowing in the wind with the times. They're not doing Forex 1 year and then crypto the next year and then the recession the next year, right? Or then real estate the next year. You want to look to see, are they consistent with their message? Is it resonating? Are they even just their personality? Are they kind to the people in their community, or are they always snarky and rude? Are people always having to call them out, or are people genuinely validating what they do? So these are some of the things that leave you open to scamming when you are, when you're fearful. And then what helps you to combat that when you're looking for a real solution is just look at the continuity and the consistency of that message.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And rolling to the next question, there's a really good movie came out years ago before both of us was born. It's called Trick Baby. It's about two con men. And one of the things the guy says in the movie is that I couldn't con anybody if they were not looking to get something for nothing. And so when talking about scammers, what do you think they look for in their victims that they're trying to scam?
Hope.
Okay.
You know, it's really sad because people have this strong desire for financial freedom. It's a part of you wanting to feel worthy of the life you want, the life you know you could have. But then there's a part of you that doesn't know how to get it and that doesn't really feel that you deserve it, to be honest. There's a part of you that don't know if you actually deserve it. There's a worthiness factor of shiny object syndrome if you really want to peel back the layers, because people who know that they're worthy are willing to do the work because they understand that they're going to get the result. They believe that when they do the work, they're going to get the result. People who constantly go after shiny object syndrome is self-sabotage. If you are constantly putting yourself in a cycle where you're chasing a shiny object and then time after time after time it fails, but you just continue to put yourself in that same cycle, that's insanity. But even more than insanity, at the root of that is that you don't believe that you're worth the thing that you really want. Because if you did, you will work for it. So when you think about people wanting something for nothing, to be honest, I think a lot of people believe that they've already worked hard enough. They deserve a quick win. And that will get you every time. I've done enough. I've worked hard enough. I deserve better than this. And you have to understand that the society that we live in does not care. Nobody is coming to save you. Very few people are even willing to come and help you. Right? So and I just like to keep it real. I don't want to be no doom and gloom, like nobody is coming to save you. But I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I already know you are going to have to be the one to figure out how to get to where you want to be. There's so many thinking about, wanting something for nothing. I think that might be like, for Black people, I think it's an oversimplification because we've already done so much, right? But it's really getting down to, when you think about what you want, you have to let go of the fairy tale thinking that you deserve or somebody's going to give it to you. No, you're going to get exactly what you're willing to do the work for. Nothing more, nothing less. And when you can come to terms with the fact that you're not going to magically hit it big. I have a dad who's a legitimate gambler. Gambled paycheck after paycheck after paycheck. I don't normally tell nobody that. You got to keep some family things in house. But given the topic that we're talking about, I know what it's like to live in a house with somebody who thinks one day, someday, eventually I'm going to hit it big. It's going to be my turn. But guess what? It doesn't just apply to gambling. Then when he gets into business, this is the business idea that's going to take off. And then when I said, all right, great. Well, let's look at your budget. Let's get your foundations together. Let's start saving consistently. Guess what, right? Now I'm actually talking about the things that will ensure that he has wealth and a legacy of wealth. But guess what his response is? No. I'm going to hit it big. That's magical thinking. That's not how this works. So when you are blinded by shiny object syndrome, a lot of times it is a psychological pattern that you're stuck in. And it takes more than just the decision to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. A lot of people have shiny object syndrome, a lot of business owners, when they buy program after program after program. And these could be legitimately good programs. People have shiny object syndrome getting degree after degree after degree. You just get stuck in a cycle of thinking this is the thing. This is the one. You are the one. And you have to figure out what is it actually going to take to get you to where you want to go, and not being stuck in this cycle of next and next and next and next.
And I really appreciate that comment. I want to ask you.
Definitely stop me too. I know I'm going off on these.
No, do what you got to do. We got you on here to hear you talk. They hear me talk all the time. So the question is, and I've dealt with this with certain clients, is that do you want to, and I'm asking you this question from your experience, when you're dealing with people that kind of sometimes have shiny object syndrome, is one of the reasons why they don't want to invest in the work is because they don't have confidence that they can be successful. So what I do is I look for something I think is like a whiz bang solution, because if somebody says, okay, here's how we're going to get you in this financial position, but it's going to be 2 years and it's going to take maybe 5 hours of work every week for those 2 years to get there. I don't have confidence that I can maintain my situation for 2 years for 5 hours every week. So I'm more attracted to, you just buy this product and in 60 days, I'll make you successful. So is it a confidence issue? Because one thing you talked about and one thing I've seen with a lot of our people is we exhibit a confidence, but when it comes to actually doing the work, we show lack of confidence. We show lack of confidence in competing with other groups of people. So do we think there's a confidence issue there?
I'm so glad that you said that, because I often have to tell people, actually, my target audience is people who really exude confidence. But right under the surface, there's doubt and then there's fear, right? And you can see it in their results. You don't necessarily see it in their speech or in their actions or, because they come off very confident, but you can see it in their bank account. There's this level of fear and doubts under the surface. And that's why I started to talk about the worthiness factor, right? So there's definitely a worthiness factor of you believing that it's possible. This is why I talked about the fact that your peers have generations of legacy of wealth on you. So when you have seen generation after generation after generation come and be pioneers and then build shops and then build stores and then build empires, or even just have houses that are passed down through generations, when you are born seeing that, and then you walk into the store and your mom says, oh, sure, Johnny, go ahead and get what you want. You have a very different perspective of somebody whose grandparents didn't pass down much of anything. And when we go to the store, our parents say, don't touch nothing, don't look at nothing, don't ask for nothing, because you can't get nothing. So when we start thinking about just generationally the things that have been passed down, the genetic memory in our DNA that screams us wanting to validate our worthiness somewhere out here, because it's been ripped of us. We've been ripped of it for so long. When we start looking to validate it in other ways, we have to exude an external confidence. But there's absolutely something that, when you walk around hearing Black Lives Matter, there's gonna be a question mark there, because if Black lives actually mattered, nobody would have to say that. And so we don't talk about the psychological impact that it actually has on your worthiness, on your confidence, on your ability to actually just go out and get what you want. So for me though, when I'm doing I'm a little bit hard on my clients. My coaches are a little bit nicer than me though. But when it comes to, I'm always looking for people who are willing to do the work, right? I'm gonna tell you that it's gonna take 2 years. I'm gonna say, I need you for 2 years. And I tell them, but we're gonna start with 3 months. All right, you're gonna see, I tell them I can help you hit your first 6 figures in 12 to 36 months. That's just the reality. I could sell you a dream, but I don't want to work with people who want a dream. They're just not the type of clients that I want to work with, because they're not going to do the sustained work for the actual result. And I don't want to have anything to do with that. But a lot of times, this is why you hear people actually click on a message that would say, build 6 figures in 30 days. Where are you going to do that? And why are you so gullible that you're actually trying to sign up for this thing? If hitting your first 6 figures in 30 days was and it's not impossible. And that's the thing too. There are a lot of exceptions, right? And then what happens is those exceptions know that you're the rule, and now they want to make money off of you being the rule because they're the exception. So because they have been exceptionally capable in an area, they want you to think that you can be exceptional in that area too. But that's an oxymoron. Only a small percentage of people can actually be exceptional. So what they do now is they make money off of their exceptionality and off of you because you're trying to be them, but that's not likely. And if you do your research, you know that that's not likely. All you got to do is look at the statistics on six-figure wealth, and it's very clear that most of the people on Instagram are lying. You don't have to know a lot. You can see that only maybe 2 out of 10 people are six-figure earners. Only 2 out of 2, only 2, maybe 3. I would, let me see. I think I have the statistics here.
Think it's less than 10%?
I think it's like 20%.
Okay.
Something like that. But it's a small 10 to 20% are six-figure earners. So we already know one out of 10 people. No. So people are misrepresenting themselves. But yeah, I'm going to stop talking now.
No, you did a great job. And it's something that's really important because we, a lot of times, because of our experience, have been taught to posture up, sometimes just to survive our environment. But the challenge is that underneath that really speaks to a lack of confidence just because of what you talked about. I've gone to school with people where their life was pretty much already set up by their parents. And they know that about themselves. And they also know that about you, that your life has not been set up by your parents because they know the history of this country. And so they exude a confidence about themselves because they know even if I wash out in school, my people are going to take care of me because of what's already been set up. And so that's something that I really was glad that you was able to discuss because we've been taught through this particular situation to exude a confidence, to exude a posture, but there's really nothing underneath it because if we really were confident in ourselves, we would do different things because we really were confident. Our behavior really speaks to how we really feel about ourselves. And I know that because when I felt a certain way about myself, my behavior spoke to how I really felt about myself. So that's something I really was glad that you were able to communicate because that's something we deal with a lot in dealing with our clients is how they really feel about themselves on the inside. It was going to always come out in their behavior. Let's go ahead and get into this next question. So we talked about the problem. We've really gone into it. What are some solutions to stop or avoid shiny object syndrome?
So I have experienced, the braggadocio. I'm a very confident person, and I have had to deal with, for me, what it means to not just exude confidence, but be confident. And thinking about what are the solutions to shiny object syndrome? The first thing is not only is there no magic bullet, but given the history of our country, any type of work that we do, more than likely, is going to have to be ongoing. So thinking that this is going to be one and done, or I'm going to take 3 months and learn this, and then I'm going to be where I want to be. You really have to get into your bones that building wealth or accomplishing your goals or building your business, it is really a process of becoming ongoingly. It's I finally arrived. We don't have that generations of backing yet. Eventually, hopefully, our children get to be born into a different type of knowing their own worthiness. But the society that we've been born into is going to demand. You have to understand, a lot of people think that they are above the media messages that they are continuously bombarded with. I don't care how strong you are mentally. I don't care how self-aware you are. The very fact that you are steeped inside of a culture means that you are going to be bombarded with the images of the dominant culture. That necessarily means that you are going to have to continuously fortify whatever it is that you have. You're going to have to fortify your mindset. You're going to have to fortify your self-image. You're going to have to fortify your finances. You're going to have to fortify your community. A lot of times, Black people try to build wealth in a silo, but in a society that targets Black people, you can't try to build wealth in a silo because now you just become somebody that can be easily knocked over because you're just one person. And I want to it might not be readily apparent how this is appropriate for the conversation or relevant to the conversation. When we start thinking about a solution all the time, where does it start? Here. And the trick is, a lot of people talk about mindset as if you're going to arrive somewhere, but you're not. I want you to understand the continuous warfare is going to require continuous fortification. And that's the very first solution that I have for you. Does that make sense?
It definitely makes sense. And I really appreciate you saying that, especially with the continual work and not thinking that something I learned from a guy that makes a lot of money, even though he's of another ethnicity, is that you're constantly becoming something. You're not arriving and you just stop. So you got to look at what you're constantly becoming, because if it's negative, you're going to be constantly become more negative. If it's positive, you constantly become more positive. And so that's something he got me to understand, is that you're constantly working on yourself to become something that's going to help make you more successful and more productive in the future, as opposed to I've done this thing and I just stay fixed there. And a lot of that is I believe the message that we may get from society. But let me go into the next question. So in talking about your results, what are some results you have achieved by helping people avoid shiny object syndrome?
One of my mottos or one of my sayings is that I help people have more money than they've ever had before. Okay. We were talking about shiny object syndrome as it relates to products and stuff like that, but I really didn't get into the type of shiny object syndrome that has you overspending your bank account, right? You running into Target for one thing and then running out with 20 different things. I didn't even get to talk about that type of shiny object syndrome. You already have a pair of black shoes, and then you go buy 2 more pair of black shoes. We didn't even get to touch on consumerism like that. But when you start to see how they're all related to worthiness, then it really changes your perspective on how you go about things. So for me, I know what I do with the results that I've gotten with my clients, having them have more money than they've ever had before. This is their language. They send me text messages. One of my clients just paid off her student loan debt. She casually texted me 3 days ago, like, hey, I just paid off my student loan debt. People are not paying off their student loans in this type of economy. My clients are paying off their student loans because they don't have shiny object syndrome, because they're clear, number one, about who they are, and they're clear about what they want, and they're clear about what they want their future to be. If you don't have clarity, you're going to have shiny object syndrome, because everybody else is telling you what you want. Everybody else is telling you what you need. A marketer's job is to get money out of your pocket and into their cash register. I tell my clients, where do you want your money? In your bank account or in somebody else's? You have to make a decision. Real quick, they stopped getting shiny object syndrome. I had a client who was in my last boot camp, and she sent me a message a few weeks ago and it said, I just hit my first $10,000. This is somebody who makes $2,400 a month. A lot of my clients are making 6 figures. This is somebody who's making $2,400 a month, and in less than 6 months, $10,000 in the bank. How do you do that? You do that by getting very intentional about where you want your money to go. So I have, one of my biggest success stories is one of my clients who now, has over about $300,000 to $400,000 in assets right now. Starting 2 years ago, nothing. Now, for that particular client, they work in tech, and in tech, once you get motivated, you can take on more than one job. So that's what they did, right? But before, the motivation wasn't there. The focus wasn't there. The intentionality wasn't there. So think about going from no savings to almost getting close to $500,000. It's a whole game changer. So, I have so many results from, what my clients are doing. One of my clients became a digital nomad, was able to quit her job because she has so much money in the bank. And so I love the results. My clients are sending me results all the time, but what I'm most proud of is their process. I remember, somebody asked me before, what are your biggest results? And I kind of got flustered because my client results are just not the most important thing to me. What is the most important thing to me is the process. And that's why my clients get their results. Because when you have a focus on the strategy and the process, and you know how to get people from A to B to C, that's when they start to see results. So I'm most proud of the fact that my clients don't just stop and start and never finish. They start and they see it through to completion, and they see the results in their bank account, like over 80% of them. And overall, those are the results that I'm most proud of.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I really appreciate you talking about process, because it gives the client something that can stand the test of time, and they can just keep working and through and continue to iterate. Now,
Yep.
what I want to ask you is the person that's maybe listening to this, and they're saying, "Well, Tasha, I hear you, but I just can't stop from going to get that fast food, every other day, or I can't stop when I'm on the job and they say, hey, who wants to get takeout? I can't stop from buying it. Or when I go into the store and I see they got that special, I can't stop from buying that item in the store. So I want to get financial success. I want to get financial freedom, but I just don't think I can stop engaging in this behavior." What would you say to that person?
First of all, I would say I am not the one.
Okay.
Don't come to me with that type of language telling me what you can't do. You will be better served by taking that message to somebody else. People don't even come and talk to me with that type of message. They come to me ready. So, but what I will say though is people come thinking that they're ready, but they really not ready. They really not ready for, doing the actual work, because people think that financial freedom is about numbers. No, boo, no, that's not what it's about. It's exactly what you said, Dave. It is about becoming. And so you come and you think that we're about to do some numbers. And then I tell you, baby, the reason that you don't have financial freedom is not because you don't know third grade arithmetic. The reason that you don't have financial freedom is because you don't have any discipline, you don't have any self-awareness, and you don't understand that you are already worthy. So when we start doing the work, what do they start to bump up against? Their comfort zone. And the comfort zone is pervasive because you've been building it. The shiny objects actually fall inside of your comfort zone too. That's why they feel so familiar. People drop shiny objects into a place that are right around your comfort zone, not too far outside of it. So it feels very familiar. But your comfort zone is very deceptive because it feels good, but it rarely actually serves you. So what I tell people is, it's not that you don't want to give it up. It's that your comfort zone has you ensnared. And you can either be a slave to it, or you can choose to get the support to do the work that's going to help you come out of it. I have a team of coaches, and the reason that we do one-on-one coaching is because I don't do ineffective programs. I could have a group coaching program only, but group coaching is actually not a sufficient structure for having somebody be able to completely deprogram and change their habits to become something new. It's actually ineffective. So when people go through my program, I'm already prepared to destroy their comfort zone. They might not know that that's what we were about to do, but part of my program is that it's 30 days of intense reprogramming different habits. Because what people don't know, shiny object and magic bullet don't work, because your future is not going to be based on that thing you did that one time. Your future is going to be based on the habits that you do ongoingly. So that's what we focus on, helping people to build habits that are actually going to move the needle in the trajectory of their financial future.
Okay. And let me ask you something before we go into the next question. So, we both understand marketing at a very deep level, and we kind of understand, we talked about some of the conditioning that we get from the mainstream media. Every few years, we kind of get these online movements involving our people. So a few years ago, and currently we got going on is, the Black luxury movement. In a few more years, it's going to be another movement. And all of these are kind of really based around shiny object syndrome, trying to get your emotional fulfillment from being a consumer of items, things of that nature. Why do we think every few years these things kind of get reinvented and put back in front of us as if it's a solution to our problem, even though our real situation never really changes?
Because we don't want to deal with the fact that capitalism and not altruism is what drives our society. Most business owners, they don't care about helping you. And you have to disabuse yourself of the idea that everybody is out here to help you. It's unfortunate. But when you look with your eyes, the reality is that people are selling ineffective stuff and they know it. How do I know they know it? I've been in the coaching classes where they teach you to market nothing. They haven't taught you how to build anything, and they know that you don't have anything of value to offer. Don't nobody care. They're still going to teach you how to market the ineffective thing that you have so that you can make money off of unsuspecting people. And there is a never-ending flow of unsuspecting people. And that's what they want to benefit off of. So when you're thinking about, and people just want you, I mean, consumerism and capital, and I'm not anti-capitalist at all, but what I am is a person who thinks that when you're in business, you should have a service that actually does something. And that's just a matter of integrity. When a lot of business owners shy away from making promises, I don't. I can make promises in my business because I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm very clear about what I can do and what I can't do and what I can promise and what I can't promise. And I'm going to let you know the whole 9 yards, what it is and what it isn't. So, but the reason I could do that is because I have longevity, I have consistency, I have continuity, I have hundreds of people that have gone into shaping an experience that I can pull from. So I'm not scared to say, this is what my program does. But if you watch a lot of the marketing, you'll hear, results may not be typical. It's like, well, then why are you selling this to the majority of people if your results are not typical? My results are typical, right? If they were not, it wouldn't be a good business idea because it's a failure as a business. If only a small percentage of my customer base is actually getting the transformation that I'm promising, is there not a breakdown here? So that's why I think that, people are constantly reinventing things because they already know what's pushing your buttons. When even psychologically, when people are doing the upsell, the best upsell is just what the person already bought. If they bought some weight loss pills as an upsell, just offer them some more weight loss pills. If they bought a book as an upsell, just offer them some more books. So as a culture, if people are already buying luxury, just sell it to them in a different way and they will buy it again.
Okay. And so what I want to ask you now is, we talked about having a really solid financial base. Can you elaborate on a little bit more on what you actually mean by that and what that means to you?
Yes, I can. So having a solid financial base is, I'm going to simplify it as much as I can. First of all, it's about having a mindset that isn't clouded by consumerism, right? It's at some point, you have to be your own master instead of letting all the marketing be the master over you. And this is one of the biggest things that has people be financially unstable, right? We want to blame a lot of systemic racism and oppression, and that's there, no doubt. But there are so many things that we could be doing to move the needle in our own finances, but we don't want to do it. So becoming the master of yourself and your money and determining that, one of the things I like to tell people is, you are not helpless, regardless of what the circumstances are. You are not helpless, hopeless, or powerless. You are helpful, hopeful, and powerful. And when you move yourself into that mindset, you'll be able to start to see different opportunities. I also tell people, you're one handshake away from a new opportunity. You're one skill away from a new opportunity, right? You're one course away from being able to make more money. So that is one of the things where I would start with the financial foundation. The other thing is, you want to make sure that you have an emergency fund. This is so basic, but so many people ignore it. Be saving specifically for a rainy day, because if you don't have an emergency fund all the time, every time something pops up, and what we know is life is gonna life regardless. Life is always gonna life. People right now are upset about the price of gas, and it's like, you don't have no reserve. If you stressed out about gas, there has been some improper money management. Unless you're living paycheck to paycheck, there's been some improper money management this whole time. Gas is the least of your worries. You have a structural issue. So have that emergency fund. The third thing actually is have separate. This one is one of my favorites. Everything that you're saving for should have its own account. Why? Because you need clarity and specificity. You need to be able to tell your money exactly what to do. Number 4, be investing into your 401k or into your IRA. Be investing somewhere. And I'm talking about in ETAs and index funds. I'm not talking about trying to catch the next Amazon stock split. Not that it won't be profitable, but if you don't have a foundation yet, leave it alone. Once you get that foundation, then you can start looking into other things. But until you have those things, just put that money into the ETFs and the index funds. And one last thing, a lot of times when people are trying to improve their financial foundation, they focus on debt only. Focusing only on debt is like looking in the rearview mirror, thinking that you're going to move forward. It's like, yes, you want to take care of the things that are back there, but you also have a future to think about. So as you're paying off your debt, definitely take care of that high interest rate debt, but don't get fixated on it. I see on Instagram, they're like, I paid off $50,000 in debt in 12 months. And it's like, okay, why? Why did you do that? You didn't have better things you could have done with that money? So those are some of my most important fundamentals that once you get those things set up, for my clients, is just stacking on top of that. A lot of people try to build without the foundation. Shiny objects like margin trading, right? You're trying to margin trade, but you have no foundation, right? You're trying to invest in crypto and crypto projects and NFTs with no foundation. It makes no sense at all. You have people who are investing in options trading and don't know anything about how to evaluate an ETF. And it's like, how does this make sense to you? So I cannot stress enough how important the foundations are when you really care about the process. And even if you don't, you can't skip steps and think you're going to be successful. Yeah, you're going to have some exceptions to the rule. And those exceptions who try to get you to do it are going to be your downfall.
Okay. And so if a person builds out that financial foundation, what can you tell them that are going to be some of the benefits to them for going ahead and going in that correct direction?
Oh, that's a good question. I like where you're going there, really getting into the heart of what matters to them, what matters to the person listening. When you follow that foundation, when you have your emergency fund, when you have different savings accounts for different things. I've had so many savings accounts. Now my niece and my nephews and all of them, they have their own accounts under my name, right? Why? Legacy. When you have your investments and you're taking care of your debt, when you do those foundational things, number one, that confidence is going to start to build, unmessable with confidence, right? That FU money. I was able to leave my job in corporate America when I didn't like it anymore. I didn't have to ask anybody permission. I just left because I had FU money in the bank. When you have money in the bank, you have more options. You have more security. You feel better about yourself. You start getting excited, right? You start wanting to save more because you see what is actually possible for you. So I would say, Dave talked about that 3 months. I would say give it 3 months just to start, and then watch how you feel at the end of that 3 months. You're going to start. When my client texted me, she's about her first 10,000. She said, a year ago, I didn't think that this was possible. Now, all the money that she has, she's very intentional about it because she wants to continue to see. She wants to go from that 10K to the 20K. So what's possible is money in the bank, more money than you've ever had before. And then you get to see how that feels on the inside. Nobody can tell you. You might not know what it's like to be able to pull up your bank account and there are thousands. You have to get, like, I'm from the south side of Chicago, one of the poorest neighborhoods in the country. And now when I go to my bank account, any one of them, I could have X thousands of dollars in there. And I see people saying, oh, I wish I could have thousands of dollars in the bank. And it's like, you could. So that's what's possible, having more money than you've ever had before and getting to know for yourself what that feels like.
Okay. And so I'm glad you was able to come on and kind of explain the shiny object syndrome. What are some of the symptoms of it? What are some of the solutions to it? And about the financial, creating a really good financial base or financial platform for people to build up off of. And then from there, they should look to explore different things. So for our audience, in conclusion, is there anything that you maybe want to reiterate to our audience before we get up on out of here?
Let's see. Is there anything that I would like to reiterate to you guys? Yes. So what I would like to reiterate is that I know that when it comes to your finances, you might think that it's about the numbers. I know that you might think that it's about, buying more assets and doing all that stuff, the number stuff. And that is important. But more important than anything is dealing with your worthiness and the self-doubt and fear that often lies beyond the surface. What's most important is dealing with yourself and transforming some of those negative habits that you have. You will find a lot of people are making more money, they get more assets, and end up less wealthy. You see athletes and actors and entertainers who make millions of dollars. You see people who win the lottery and it is here today and gone tomorrow. The money issues that you think you have, they're not just my nephew keep messaging me. They're not just the issue with your money. It's the issue that is undergirding that. And until you deal with that, money is going to continuously. Until you deal with that, money is going to continuously slip through your fingers, no matter how much you have. That's what I see most of the time anyway. So deal with those fundamental internal issues so that when money does come, you're able to be a good steward of it.
Okay. And I really, appreciate what you was able to contribute to my audience today. I know they got a lot of value from it. I see it in the comments. And I've been a big fan of what you've been doing. You've been very, very consistent with it over time. And that's something I think a lot of people can appreciate, the fact that you've been very consistent in what you're talking about in your messaging and the solutions that you have for people over an extended period of time. And we're going to continue to look forward to you continuing to just grow bigger and bigger in what you're doing.
I appreciate that.
No problem. So I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate the audience. If you got any questions for Tasha, hit her up in the comments. We'll get back to you. David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. I'll talk to you later.